Hey everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. This is our recap and Q&A from last week's tax season status check and planning for 415 webinar. Marcus, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm great. Amy's not with us because Amy is, to my knowledge, on a beach in Mexico, but maybe she'll call in. I don't know.
Maybe she'll
Probably
watch
won't.
this and provide really good commentary after the fact.
Yeah. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just do a brief recap of what we talked about last week. And then if there are any questions, we can answer those questions. We're doing this in Zoom today, which is probably going to feel pretty similar for everybody as opposed to just directly in the platform, just seeing how that goes. But by and large, it's pretty much the same thing. So this is what we talked about last week. Just seeing where DBA was, Marcus, in terms of tax season, and we could talk numbers, we could talk just how it's going.
Yeah,
Um, we looked at the tax extension process inside of UltraTax, which we won't do today or anything like that, and then just kind of look ahead to 415. So does that make sense to you?
makes sense. Right in the
Okay.
thick of it, man.
Yeah, so this was and Amy pulled some of these things together, and I don't think these ones were too hard to get, but just giving folks a little bit of the lay of the land at DBA. So this is how Amy laid things out for everybody, preparers, reviewers, tax administrators, and tax assistants. How's everything going with you guys so far this season?
Yeah, and this looks really deceiving. I know that anytime we share numbers of DBA, we probably get a lot of eye rolls and, shaking of the head. So there are seven preparers, seven reviewers, two tax assistants, and one tax assistant and two tax admins. What I would say, this can be deceiving, especially given the number of returns that we do, roughly around 550-ish, kind of ebbs and flows up and down right now. Um, People work on the clients they are assigned and support throughout the year. So those preparers, those reviewers may only work on, 40 to 50 returns. And then we have some annual clients, especially now with the recent acquisition, that are assigned first to tax admins, right, to kind of do anything that they possibly can. But then we have a couple of team members that have really taken point on some of these annual relationships that feel a little heavier tax than the majority of this team that is on screen. So that tax assistant also, that's a new position for us. Julie just recently started. Would have loved to have her in full season, and she is a TOA team member that sits in the Philippines. She is not able to work on some of our clients that we don't have 7216s on yet. If some of you remember, we acquired a practice, an additional practice at the end of January, really kicked off February 1st. And those clients, which are a lot of annual touch points, we do not have 7216s on. So we're just kind of in this bubble right now, man. And so what we communicate to the team kind of on a daily basis is please let us know if you've got availability within daily three. Because right now, what we're trying to do is make sure that there's as few bottlenecks that exist as possible. Because with preparers, you may have some that are available and ready to help, but then you may have some that are overwhelmed. And so I would just encourage any firm to look at the spread of work across the organization and see who has availability to help out right now.
Yeah, Marcus, and these are you kind of mentioned doing about 550 returns. I think if you add all these numbers together, you think you're going to be pretty much in the ballpark there. Amy shared these last week. So, you guys are meeting weekly, right? On Tuesdays earlier this morning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just a pulse check because Amy's sitting on the beach somewhere, not worrying about tax. We kind of updated what we could today and really, again, just reiterate, hey, if you need something, like go to the client and get it or let the internal team know what you need. We're at that point in tax season where you can't delay. You can't paralyze yourself and not make decisions. You got to keep moving forward. And I think something that Amy may have shared last week is April 11th, Friday, April 11th is kind of our it needs to be done day. Because April 15th is on a Tuesday this year. And, that Monday can be spent just making sure nothing catches on fire. You don't want to do that on Tuesday, the 15th. I would highly recommend doing that either the 14th or if you do want to log in that weekend before, just to make extensions were accepted, payments did go through, everything like that. You want to give yourself a buffer. So for us, it's like, hey, remember it's April 11th, not April 15th, right? And kind of motivating the team to see what's in their control and then, really use what's in their control to continue to move toward that direction.
Awesome. Awesome. Makes a ton of sense. So do you have we share I added a little bit of verbiage to this graph from last time because we were looking at 2023 and I understand that the Texas franchise tax was really delayed in getting gets released and approved in ultra tax. So you guys were probably having to sit on some of those returns, right, Marcus? And
Yeah.
then as of Monday, last Monday, 3/17, somewhere around 30 to 31% complete. Are you guys do you track this on a daily basis, a weekly basis? Do you look at it like that?
I wouldn't recommend looking at it daily just because too much changes, right? So definitely look at it weekly with your team, kind of like we do. Right now we're sitting at about 45%. So, just some of those 8879s came in to where we could fully complete those returns, just the way that it all kind of cycles through. And then the other piece was March 17th was actually the deadline for the business filing because that March 15th fell on the Saturday, right? So we are probably a little bit higher than maybe what these numbers even were pulled last Monday, just because, you do get some of those last minute 8879s to kind of close out and you got to make sure the state gets accepted and all that fun stuff. And there's always a little bit of a delay, but I'm sure with being now a week on the other side of the March deadline and, some of the individuals just getting wrapped up, that also helped us push, kind of that 12 to 13 point spread that just happened this past week.
Got it. So in I heard you say April 11th as being that kind of, hey, that's our final preparation type day there. Is there an internal deadline that you have? And I can't remember if Amy said it or you said it, where you're telling your clients, hey, we have to have everything by this date, and then we will get it done or do our best to get it done, or it's going on extension.
Yeah, and so this year with acquiring the office in the middle of tax season, we actually have two calendars, right? And the St. Louis office is actually it's ahead of the DBA office as far as like when their cutoff was. And if you think about a lot of annual touch points, a lot of annual relationships, there's just more work that goes into prepping those returns. So the St. Louis office, I think for business returns, it was February 5th was like that line in the sand. And then I want to say it was like March 5th for 1040s, which I talked to another few, friends that own firms and they were like, wow, that's really early. And I'm like, yeah, that's good for us, because if there would have never been communication on that, it could lead to some surprises that you weren't able to get done. Now we can point to that date and say, hey, it came in after this. We did everything possible in our power to be able to do that, but we just couldn't get it done. So on the DBA side, we've kind of held out for the past few years as really team of three has been working, and those assigned clients are worked on even during tax season, and just kind of wrapped up because the hard work is done throughout the year. We've always held out as a 3 week turnaround, like cutoff, right? So whatever that was, March 17th. So it would have been probably that week of February 24th would have
Right.
been kind of that timeline. And then for individuals, it's really that March 17th is our cutoff for 1040 prep because we've always kind of dialed it back, kind of like the April 11th this year. We really need 2 to 3 weeks to prepare the return and make sure everything goes well. So it was March 17th this year on the 1040s. And, now that we're past that, it's kind of like, hey, we just got to get done what's indoor. But as everybody knows, there's always something that, pokes its head up and needs to get addressed, whether that's a client who needs to calculate their extension payment or, first quarter estimates, all that fun stuff that happens over the next few weeks.
Got it. Okay. Um, so we talked a little about just creating the space, in those weekly meetings, let's say, to get together and just talk about what's going on, if there's any issues. Um, you guys meet Tuesdays. We talked about that each week. Those meetings usually go pretty quick. Do they last a while? Does it just kind of depend on the week?
Yeah, no, they go quickly. So those tax team meetings are right on the other side of our full team meeting. And we've kind of set aside Tuesday morning at 10 to kind of have both of those meetings. So 10 to 10:30, we have full team across DBA. And then at 10:30 is when the tax team is scheduled. So right now, those are a weekly meeting just because of the time of year. It's really a pulse check to like, hey, this is the numbers. Here's where we're at. Like, any one person can speak up. But at the same time, they do move pretty quickly. And the other things that are shared in addition to like numbers are, if there's any updates from, Washington that we need to be paying attention to, that clients are hearing or paying attention to. So right now, a lot of that, could be BOI or potential tax law changes. That could impact for 2024 and definitely 2025.
Okay. So just, here, Amy made this. I think it's a really neat formula, Marcus, where she's ultimately trying to get to the point where if we have X returns to get done and we have X days to get them done, just giving folks an idea of, I need to do X returns per day
Yeah.
to get there. So we just kind of talked through that, which made sense. And then talking about getting an idea of which returns that you knew you were going to extend. I guess maybe if you know the clients, you probably have an idea historically of how you've handled them. But if you don't, what kinds of things can you do there? We went and
Yeah.
looked at data mining to get an idea of some things like that. So,
And a
any
lot of
comments? Yeah, go
Yeah, a
ahead.
lot of our returns, especially the high net worth folks that have external K1s that come in during the summer, like those always get extended. And so a really high majority of our returns, I think, for our firm compared to others, do actually get extended. And so Molly takes point on a lot of those returns, and she knows what extension payments need to be made and estimates and everything, but it's also at the mercy of the K1 that we have no idea, what that could say for 2024. The client has no idea. We have no idea. We know if they did not receive a distribution from that partnership, but that's about it. And
Yeah.
so it's always kind of being prepared for that extension season payments, all that fun stuff. The other thing that I would say, the slide prior was really helpful when we were heavier tax. So when we had over 2,000 tax clients, and majority of those did need to get touched or prepared during, tax season, this was really helpful. And we would set goals around how many returns needed to go out that week. And the way that we did that for the team, it was how many returns could get to review. So at that time in the life of the firm, I was a reviewer, Tom was a reviewer, and if the team could prepare and kind of button up the return, then get it to our desk. And I think we still had paper files, routing sheets, something to that point where we could, have a count. We would set a goal at the beginning of the week. So in that time, that era, we met on Mondays and we set that goal that what needed to be kind of ready to review by end of day Friday, because then as reviewers, we're probably working over the weekend to knock that out, was a number. And let's say if that number was 100 and that number was met by the whole team, then there would be a cash incentive. And that cash incentive moved the needle more than you would expect. And so I think if anybody's listening to this and trying to motivate team over the next few weeks just to get across that finish line. That's something that worked for us in the past, and We expanded that because at that time, part of our team wasn't tax. So we also expanded that just to total projects. So, like accounting projects, you think about the 15th and financials going out by the 15th. And so we expanded that to include some of those financial projects that had a very similar timeline as far as when we wanted those to go out to the client. So that kind of brought whole team in. So it wasn't just, hey, tax team gets this incentive and nobody else. But I would encourage you to be creative on something like that. And if you can set a goal and they hit that goal, then reward it. And if you're paying out, let's say you pay out a few $1,000s in cash over the next few weeks, that's going to feel really good to the team. And it's going to feel like a team effort to get to that deadline.
Awesome. Yeah, little extra incentive, extra bonus, moving the needle. Cool, Marcus. A different era. It's a different era. You use that word.
It was a different era, man. I remember which office I was in, like stacks on stacks on stack. I was actually 2016, I think, was the last time that we had to play that game. But yeah, it worked.
All right, great. So, we won't talk through the extension process, but Amy did a good job, everybody. If you want to watch the recording of the session, she went into the tax program. DBA uses UltraTax, as I know a bunch of other folks out there, but inside of your system, she just kind of walked through the process of generating those extensions. And
Yeah.
so that's there. Go ahead,
The
Marcus.
other thing that I would add here is just make sure that you're doing the updates, like whether whoever handles the UltraTax or tax program updates for you, make sure that you're generating those every once in a while. It came up this week, like a state trust return got rejected because UltraTax hadn't been updated in the last few days, and it was like working off of the initial release. So always do that, especially before you go into like an extension, like filing season. That way you're working with the best, most up-to-date software.
Marcus, how do you have a designated person in the office that would handle making sure you've got the updates or getting the updates?
I think Amy does it, and that's why I was probably rejected this week while she was out of town. Yeah. So, we also have Angel on this side that could help with that. But, it has to be somebody that is in the tax program occasionally, right? And maybe they're occasionally only in that tax program to update the software. But yeah, making sure somebody's in charge of that is key, and that it's scheduled to actually push the button to do updates. So. I know that Angel has had to take down like our whole like bubble, if you will, and he'll schedule that like Fridays at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. because most people aren't logged in. And then if there's any critical updates that need to happen, those are scheduled, after hours. And another update to share is even though we've acquired an office during this season and have some new team members and things like that, DBA hasn't worked a weekend yet. Like team members have not worked a weekend. For the most part, they haven't worked any OT during the week. They've shifted hours around because some people prefer to work, 10 to 7. So there's always like some various things going on there, but weekends we haven't hit that. And that's always a great celebration from all the hard work that we've done over the years. So.
Awesome. Who e-files extensions there, Marcus?
Yeah, so if we're doing bulk extensions, that's going to be Amy as director of operations that really takes point on bulk extensions. Client controllers, actually, if they're having conversations with their client, and this came up today, and they know what the client is going to pay with that extension, they go ahead and generate that extension now. We don't want it to push up against the deadline. It's okay getting an acceptance for a 415 in March. Like, hey, don't worry about that. So we go ahead and control what we can right now. We schedule the payment to be made through IRS direct pay, all that fun stuff. We make sure that it goes through on April 14th or April 15th. But I think that's something that once you've assigned someone in control of like that whole client relationship, they're really the same person that's initiating those extensions, getting them teed up. And then the actual e-filing of the extension, that's going to be either a tax admin or Amy whenever she goes through to bulk extend. So, but yeah, that's kind of how it works right now.
Okay. And then just real quick, a little bit back to the tax assistant. And I know she's very new. What kind of role and things is the tax assistant role doing or will be doing?
Yeah, so right now, Julie is her name, and Julie is there. She's learned a lot. She's helped key some new client returns because keying returns, prior year returns, and then pro formaing them into the current year is always great. It's always great education, kind of learning the tax program. So that's what she did initially. And then Julie's also there currently for those people that we have 7216s on to actually be that first level of preparer. So she is putting together sure prep binders, putting together lists of missing documents from prior year. We would rather a tax assistant or a tax admin do that versus a preparer or a reviewer. And like they have been good to do that. They key in as much as they can. And then we're working toward the point where, the reviewer, the controller is really review ready. Those tax returns are review ready, much like the financials are review ready for that controller.
All right. Makes sense. So Julie's getting into the swing of things.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
the thing right now is what we're doing. If you're really wanting to look behind the scenes in DBA, if we have a St. Louis client that doesn't have a 7216, Deidre, who sits in Texas, is able to help prepare that. So we may pull Deidre into that preparing to help Heather. But if it's a DBA who we have a 7216 on, Julie may actually help prepare that, where it would have been Deidre in the past. And then Deidre may actually help review that because she has some experience with that client over the years before it does go on to a reviewer. So Julie is kind of right now working with Deidre as tax admin. Deidre is reviewing that quicker than she can prepare it, and then it's still going on to the ultimate reviewer.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Um, so just looking ahead now, Marcus, to April 15th, we listed out just some bullets for folks as you look ahead. So as you look ahead, as the folks in the office look ahead, as DBA looks ahead to April 15th, um, what's the game plan?
Yeah, you got to look at your dashboard. So if you're using Canopy, Onvio, Carbon, whatever you're using, you got to make sure you know what the status of things are and that status is current and up to date. So that's the first thing. We've already set our deadlines, our due dates. So once those are set, it's just working towards that finish line. The finish line is not continuing to move. We aren't moving the goalpost. We're just running towards what we've already set. And so that first step would definitely be making sure that your dashboard and your statuses are up to date. If you don't have a handle of that, would recommend kind of taking some time to get, oriented on where things are at in the firm because we're just close enough that it needs to be done. The second thing that I would do after you have your dashboard ready is start prioritizing what actually needs to get done on that dashboard. And some of that may be first in, first out. That's the easy way to do it. Some of it is probably around client relationship. And we've talked about this 80/20 rule a lot of times. Whatever you do, do not delay looking at one of your best clients' returns just to get that 1040 squeaky wheel out the door. Back up and understand what's most important. And it's most important to serve those clients that are paying you throughout the year. So if you need to glance at their return check status, make sure that it'll be done correctly and done on time. That's what I would recommend. And that way you're not kind of reprioritizing based on this first in, first out, or based on the fire of the moment, that you are keeping the long-term vision of the firm and its most important clients in mind.
Got it. All right. So we're almost done here, everybody. Almost done, Marcus. I think Amy shared this at the very end last time. Well, I know she did. Internal firm deadlines. I think she said April 9th was the last day for prep. So couple extra day buffer in there just to make sure everything's done and ready. And then the April 15th goalpost deadline that's not moving.
And most people that are watching this know like it's likely not going to be like you're starting new prep that April 9th or 10th or 11th. It's you're tracking down those missing items. It's like that missing puzzle piece to put it all together and then actually knock it out or finalize the extension and estimate for Q1. So yeah, build yourself plenty of time to do that because most likely it's your most complicated and most valuable clients that you're going to be talking to during that window of April 9th through April 14th, 15th.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's any questions, send them through, everybody. We have a couple more minutes if you've got any questions. That was our agenda again. Just at the end here, Marcus, and I'll give it back to you if you've got any final thoughts. But just our next few sessions coming up here. We've got a tech talk on ADP Run, talking about a few things. It's a 30-minute session, everybody. Tax season recap at the end of April. The Recharge conference is the very beginning of May, which is sold out right now. And then we have our mid-year firm planning webinar in May, and then we have some things going out past there, but that's just what's upcoming with us through May. Marcus, anything else you can think of?
No, that calendar is as good as Ben will let us update it right now. We are working diligently in the background for the rest of 2025, and it's crazy. So some other things are in the works, which are exciting, including some events in Q4, Q3, and now it's just finalizing and working through and getting to see our people here shortly.
It's going to be great. So, all right. Well, Marcus, thanks so much for giving us a great recap and filling in lots of great information and everything. I don't see any other questions here. So, what are you doing the rest of the day?
I'm just I've got my fire extinguisher beside my desk, making sure as stuff flames up, man, that it gets put out. So if anybody needs us to send them a fire extinguisher, I'm sure Amazon can do Prime pretty well. So just shoot us a note and we'll take care of you.
Branded fire extinguishers. That's a new one, but
There you go.
yeah, could be useful. Hopefully no big fire. So all right, everybody. Well, Marcus, thank you so much. Christine and Amy, thank you Christine and Rachel. I'm used to Amy being there too.
Yeah.
She's got her feet up on the beach. Christine and Rachel, thanks for being in the background. And for everybody that tuned in, we really appreciate it. I'll catch up with everybody again soon. So bye now.
All right, man. See ya.